This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Classic Marvel Star Wars comics with Randy Martinez, with Booges, Jackson, Crimson Jack, and Sergi X, and Don Juan Quixote. Classic Marvel Star Wars comics.
At last, beyond the movie, beyond the galaxy, as it says here on the cover of each issue of the Marvel Star Wars comics, and now, beyond Skywalking Through Neverland. That is right, we are taking our classic Marvel Star Wars comics segment with Randy Martinez and spinning it off into its own show, just like you asked. So here it is. Now, if you are a new listener to the Skywalking Through Neverland growing empire, what we do is we take each issue of the vintage series of the 1970s and 80s and we discuss it in length because these issues have been forgotten. So we're not going to forget them. We're going to go into them and talk about them like unlike any other.
And it's fun because both you and Randy got to read them back in the day, right?
Yeah, and did you, Sarah?
No, I'm a newbie to this series because I wasn't even born yet when this series came out. And then Randy is an artist, so we get all of that.
Right. Now, for those of you who don't know, I am Richard Wolosky, but when talking about the very beginning of the Star Wars expanded universe, and this is where it all started, I wouldn't be able to do it alone. To give a different point of view as someone who didn't grow up with these comics, everyone please say hello to my very young wife, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. And now, as we all know, the Star Wars expanded universe got so big in the Marvel world that there is no way we could handle it with just the two of us. So, everyone, please welcome Star Wars artist Randy Martinez.
Hey, Randy.
Hello. How's everybody doing out there?
We are doing great and very, very excited about this becoming its own spin-off show because now we can really blow up the issue and talk about it in depth. Whereas before we wanted to kind of keep it manageable at 1 hour.
I was going to say, didn't we already do that?
That was always the goal, but thank you so much for always having me on. And I'm really excited about having our own segment, our own show actually now. And it's because of you and Sarah's hard work and of course the fans. And we wouldn't have this spin-off show without the popularity from the fans. So, I really appreciate all of you and all of your kind words wherever I go. And they're excited about what's going to happen on the next podcast about the comics. So thank you, everybody. I really appreciate that.
Oh,
well, great. Yeah, this has blown up more than I thought it would because, like I was saying before, I thought each segment would be like 10 or 15 minutes.
And we spend 10 or 15 minutes on the cover alone.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and then just hearing from your point of view as an artist, it's like, wow, this is really something that I've never even fathomed. So, Randy, thank you very much for giving us your point of view and spin as a Star Wars artist.
Well, I'm happy to.
All right, now, is everyone ready to dive into Star Wars issue number 7, New Planets, New Perils?
Yes, please.
Yes. Now, when we last left off, we just finished the movie adaptation where Rebel spaceships striking from a hidden base have won another victory against the evil Galactic Empire by destroying the Death Star.
Yay! Now, to give a little background on this 7th issue, which went on sale October 11th, 1977,
Whoa.
It was written and edited by Roy Thomas and illustrated by Howard Chaykin. Now, in this issue, after bidding farewell to their rebel friends, Han Solo and Chewbacca set out to return to Tatooine to pay off their debt to Jabba the Hutt. En route there, they are hijacked by a space pirate and someone who can really rock a unitard, Crimson Jack, and his gang of thugs.
Oh, we're totally getting into this.
Oh, yeah. The pirates take the reward money given to Han and Chewie by the Rebel Alliance for rescuing Princess Leia Organa. Now forced to lay low because they can't pay Jabba, the two seek refuge on the planet Aduba 3.
Aduba, wow.
That's a name. Now, Randy, what are your initial thoughts on this issue?
It's it serves as a double purpose. It was great. that an expanded universe happened, and the other thing is so weird that if you have never taken any mind-altering substances, this serves as what it's like when you do. So it's just very bizarre.
Now, wait a minute. Is this the first EU?
Yes.
What, has a book come out?
Well, as a comic book, wasn't there one Splinter of a Mind's Eye?
Right.
Yeah,
when did that come
came out in 78.
Okay, so
this came out October of 77.
Right.
So this is
the
what
very
we're getting
first
into.
expanded universe item.
Exactly.
That's right.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't count the scenes in the novel that weren't in the movie.
Well,
yeah, this is like outside of the
Right.
shooting scripts, outside of the
it's
novelization.
like a whole story that's not based on the movie stories.
Yes.
Yes, the expanded. Now, Sarah, what are your initial thoughts of this issue?
Unitard? Okay,
You can see where Sarah's mind went here.
My initial thought when I saw, what is it? 3 pages in.
Yeah, this
I
Crimson
saw
Jack.
Crimson Jack. The reveal of Crimson Jack, the reveal, because he's revealing a lot of leg there. That is a unitard. I thought, wow, Richard could really pull that off as a cosplay.
Oh, don't go there.
I'm sorry, but that's my initial thoughts because you have nice legs.
It'd be a lot easier to run those marathons in that.
Yeah, maybe the April Dark Side.
Oh, thanks, Randy. Thank you, Randy.
Oh my god! So that's my initial. Also, I found it interesting. It is kind of a branching, branching comics segment because you're taking one element of the story from A New Hope and you're expanding it into a different universe. Right. But it also seems like the story's going to go further. So this seems like a stepping stone.
Yeah, that's one of my reactions too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll get to that after we're done reviewing the issue. Now, for me, Marvel is still settling into the whole Star Wars universe, and they're not really sure where to take it at this point. But the letters in the reader's column Star Words, it does state that the comic series would focus on the characters of Han Solo and Chewbacca until George Lucas has a better idea of where the story of the second film, The Empire Strikes Back, would go.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, I always wondered as a kid, why are we just going with these 2 characters? But knowing that Lucas really wanted to delve into Luke Skywalker's story, I thought, okay, let's just, you can go into Han and Chewie, but don't touch Luke just yet.
Okay. Interesting.
Which kind of goes to prove that nobody reads the letters in the comic books.
Oh!
Not until 40-something years later.
Well, for me as a kid, I was always a completist. So I had to read it cover to cover in order to take in, because at that point, you had to be a completist or you were going to be missing out on something. And there was so little out there, you just wanted to engage in everything and just digest anything out there. And for me, the Star Wars were part of the comic, so I had to read every single letter.
That's like so different than today.
Oh, definitely.
Now it's like, oh my god, I'm like so behind on the comic books. Oh my god, I can't read all the Force Awakens novels. Anyway.
Randy, did you ever write into Star Wars as a kid?
No, I didn't. I didn't read them. I was like, there's no pictures. I'm not reading that.
What about you? Did you write in?
I wrote a couple of letters. Unfortunately, they were never printed.
Aww.
How sad.
It is sad.
Didn't they know who you would become?
Apparently not. Boy, they're kicking themselves now, aren't they? Stan
Maybe they'll
Lee.
put them in there now in like retrospect, you know?
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah. I wish I had a computer back then, so then maybe I would have a copy of what I wrote. But I'm sure it went something like, Dear Marvel, I like Star Wars.
Yeah. Right.
I like your comic book. Where's Luke Skywalker? The end. I'm sure it went something like that.
That sounds like a Force Awakens parallel right there. Where's Luke?
Oh, you know what? That is a Force Awakens parallel, as is a lot of stuff in this issue.
Yes, I noticed this.
Randy, did you notice that too?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, we won't get into that right now because it'll be fun to discover it as we're going along. But Sarah, I'm glad that. Oh, I knew that there was a lot that you had.
Yeah, I saw your
discovered.
notes right here, and my notes right here also has a parallel TFA thing. So
yeah,
so yeah.
So
We'll get
apparently
into
we haven't
it.
been giving the writers enough credit because they're thinking ahead.
Yeah. And with the Star Wars and the letters that we'll discuss, there's some really interesting information that they talk about there on talking to George Lucas and even Mark Hamill.
Really?
Yeah.
You know
Wow.
what? I read this 38 years ago, so my mind is a little foggy on some of these other letters.
Yeah, they talk about talking to that they actually met with George Lucas and even Mark Hamill and talking about the story and the direction of these comics. So there's a lot of actually history behind this.
So who's writing these Star Words then?
A letter, fans.
Fans write in.
Fans write into Marvel asking questions.
But did these fans write in saying that they had met George Lucas and Mark Hamill?
No, the writer, it's Roy Thomas who's responding.
Oh,
So
okay. So
there'll
the
be a letter,
response.
and then there will be a response.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and
gotcha.
his response, he's talking about that, and so it's interesting. And there is also some response in there that contradicts some of the history that we talked about in the last podcast about the original ones concerning when the artist saw the movie and such. And in the letters, it claims that they saw a rough cut before the movie came out. Where the history that I've read and researched said that they didn't see the movie until 2 comics in.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of he said, she said, you said, we said
Right.
from information that goes back 38 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll read that a lot in Charlie Lippincot's Facebook messages about how someone said something, but no, he's going to dispute that. And so it's hard to, you got to kind of take everything and go, okay, what makes the most sense?
Yeah. And some things are also written to keep the fans excited and for more or less political correctness, because in the responses to it says that the writer and the artist are having a ball doing the art, which I might have to argue that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it was the fourth or fifth segment when we had it on Skywalking Through Neverland, which you had done some research, Randy, and dug up some research that says that no, they didn't have the greatest time or hand it off to each other, and a lot of stuff was ghost written.
All right, now let's talk about the cover art.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for those who aren't familiar with this cover, I want to paint you a picture. Han and Chewie are in the middle of a firefight.
And Han is kneeling in front of Chewie, firing his blaster, while a laser bolt lands right in front of him, just a few inches from an area no guy ever wants to be hit. And Chewie is grabbing 2 aliens who apparently just made him very angry.
And now, like we see in the Old West, there's a wanted poster hanging in the background with Han and Chewie on it. Now, you've got to wonder, how did they manage to get into so much trouble when they just left Yavin not too long ago?
Now, we got a lot to talk about with this cover. Now, Randy, what were your thoughts on this issue cover?
I loved this cover ever since I was a little kid. And, I just loved everything. I wasn't a Star Wars purist. I'm really still not a Star Wars purist, but I loved the composition. Is exciting. I love the camera angle looking from the ground up. It makes you feel like you're in the scene and you're part of the action. I like the 2 weird looking aliens. For some reason, this is so weird, but I've always loved the alien in the background with those fins on his head. And there's something about that. I wish he was an actual character in the movie.
Right.
I love the wanted sign in the background, and it really created a new environment almost for Star Wars, and but also continued that Western theme.
Yeah, very much so. Now let's give credit where credit is due here. The cover art is by Gil Kane and Tony DiZanuga. Now, I've never heard these names associated with Star Wars. Have you, Randy?
Not yet.
No? Okay.
Well, now's the first time.
Yeah, and you can really tell by looking at Chewbacca because he is looking less like the $6 Million Man Sasquatch and looking more like a giant
chimp?
Yeti that ate the $6 Million Man Sasquatch.
He's certainly not looking like Chewbacca.
No, not at all. Not at all. Sarah, what are your thoughts on this cover?
Well, I immediately, my brain went to that wanted Dead or Alive poster. I thought, how interesting. You don't see these kind of things in Star Wars, but on this cover, it certainly gives it a Western feel. And when I went to look at the comments on our Skywalking Through Neverland Facebook page, yeah, our Skywalkers were right on that. let's read a few of these comments. So Hector Rios Jr., he wrote, "This feels like a Western. If you've read The Art of Star Wars The Force Awakens, the conceptual artists, when designing the Starship Graveyard Jakku Nima Outpost, were also going for an Old West feel. I'm so glad that this great segment of the podcast is getting its own spin-off show."
Yay.
Well, thanks, Hector.
Yeah. Oh, and then I also found interesting, Amanda Bond kind of spun off on that and said, "Chewie and Han are almost the prototypical Western heroes, aren't they? Han's the cowboy, living by his wits and his gun, and Chewie takes the place of the mystical Native American faithful friend. I hadn't thought of the Lone Ranger parallels until Daniel Hyatt mentioned this."
Yeah, Daniel Hyatt also mentioned about the wanted
Wanted sign.
posters and how it had an Old West feel.
Yeah, so we were all kind of circling around that
Which is
feel.
what George Lucas really was going for with the cantina.
Absolutely.
And
Right.
the whole movie plot convention about how everyone meets at the watering hole, and you find the gangster or the smuggler or the underdweller who's going to help them to the second act of the film.
Yeah.
All right, now Brian Sims, he had written, "This one lost the Star Wars feel for me."
Maybe it was too Western for him.
Well, you know what? I can see where he's going, because like I was saying about The Force Awakens, it kind of felt like Star Wars in a Star Trek world.
Uh-huh.
I kind of feel like this here, it parallels that, because this does feel like a Star Trek world with just
Really?
with the aliens. Yeah, those aliens. If you had said those are from Star Trek, I would have said, well, yeah, no kidding, because they do look more from Star Trek than in Star Wars.
Yeah, I would concur.
Well, that one yellow one in the back looked like he's getting his head blown off. I don't see him as
You know
an
what?
alien at all.
Now that you say that, it does look like he's maybe like Ghost Rider, or his head's on fire.
Yep, that's what it looks like to me.
This is one of the better covers of all time for Star Wars to me. Just because it's artistically speaking, the excitement and the camera angle, and it's tilted. I mean, it's got everything there. And I was doing a project a few years ago that we were working on doing paintings of all the classic Star Wars covers, all the best ones. And it wasn't an official project yet. It was kind of more of like a proposal. And so this is one of the covers that I wanted to do, because this is one of my favorites. And the people that I was working with didn't want to do it because of the aliens. You know, nobody knew who those aliens were. And they said, well, if you switch it to make it like Greedo or something, I was like, well, you're kind of losing the whole part of the cover, you know, and going into this whole new part of the galaxy and these creatures. And I always love that alien in the background, like I said. And even the little green guy is pretty cool. He's obviously knocked out by Chewbacca.
This issue cover as a kid excited me because it was something we hadn't seen yet. So I knew that we were taking the Star Wars universe and expanding it, because we were also seeing two new aliens we hadn't seen before. So I knew this was the start of something huge.
Yeah. So while the inside of the comic, I would agree, it is a completely unseen part of the Star Wars universe that we would never have imagined before, and maybe doesn't feel Star Wars. The cover definitely is. It is very Star Wars to me.
All right, now let's go into the issue now.
All right.
Now, Randy, what are your thoughts on the first splash page here, where Han and Chewie are saying goodbye to Luke and Leia?
It's a little underwhelming. I think that for the first, of course, we're looking at this in retrospect, you know, and like, what would you do if this was the very first EU? There was no EU, quote unquote, back then. It was just a comic book they're doing. So going back, I probably would have liked to have seen like something exciting, you know, right on the heels of the Death Star being blown up in the adaptation. But there's obviously some issues with the details and some of the perspective once you kind of pull back, and the word bubbles are kind of hiding some of those issues. So but at the same time, it does give a clear picture of what you're in store for in terms of it just feels off kilter.
Really? Yeah, so this obviously takes place right after the ceremony on Yavin, and everyone's saying their goodbyes, and Han and Chewie are off to pay off Jabba the Hutt. So as a kid, I recall really liking that because it picks up where we left off. But yeah, now looking at it 38 years later, you know, I I still like the fact that we were picking up where we left off, and we're not like a month or two down the line.
Well, I would agree with that statement. Yeah, I like that part of it. I like that they're picking up where they left off. But I'm just saying, as far as the splash page of the first page, I would have liked to have had a little bit more interesting of a composition.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Artistically, but writing wise and story wise, I do like that part of it.
Now, I got to ask you, Chewbacca is standing in the back, and he is saying,
Yeah.
Now, what is your translation for that? What do you think Chewie is saying right then and there?
I gotta pee. Hurry.
That's one way of looking at it. Sarah, what's your translation to what Chewie is grumbling?
Well, he's probably agreeing, but haven't these people seen the movie? Chewie is not GRONK, he's
How do you spell that?
There's R's. There's R's or W's. No G's or K's. There's no hard vowels in Wookiee sounds.
GRONK.
W's.
Well, you know who captured that correctly was Decipher, the collectible trading card game, and while they didn't put these kind of sound effects on the cards in the names of the Tusken Raiders, the specific Tusken Raiders, there was and there's and they're spelled out like with like big R's and little R's and little U's and big U's in different ways.
Oh, nice. That's fun.
So when you're trading with somebody, it's I'll trade you for No, I want a No, I need two
I'd love to be sitting in that conversation. That's funny.
And interesting enough, one of our listeners, Kevin, used to
Kevin Raider nerd.
Yes, he used to edit those cards and I believe help write those. So shout out to Kevin.
Yeah. Awesome.
And he got named. Didn't you name him? Didn't you name him on one of your cards?
No. Well, that was his.
Oh, that's right.
That was his. He had me do a piece of artwork for him of his character that they named after him, which was my vocabulary is off this morning. But when they take your name and they shift all the letters around.
Yes.
An anagram?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, lucky.
Nice.
Lucky Kevin. Now, to me, Chewie, it looks like he's saying, hey, before we take off, just to be clear, I still haven't gotten my medal. I just want this to be on record. I'm not holding a grudge. I'm just saying.
None of them are wearing their medals.
Well, yeah, that makes it even worse.
Yeah. Where do they put them?
You guys got a medal and you take it off, I'd still be wearing mine.
I'm not wearing much of anything, so a medal would really do a lot for my outfit here.
Now, Han Solo is saying to Luke, whatever you do, Luke, wherever you go, I'll find you all after I've done what I got to do. That is a promise from Han Solo.
I know. What's up with that?
I never knew Han to speak in third person.
No,
but whenever I see Han Solo in dialogue, I hear it as Maz Kanata. Han Solo!
Oh.
When she first sees him in The Force Awakens.
I hear it as Kylo Ren. Han Solo. Like when he senses his presence on Starkiller Base.
That's funny.
Han Solo. Oh, wow.
Han Solo.
Yes.
And then to top it all, 3PO says to R2, stop sniveling, R2. You'll see Master Solo again.
Bloop.
And R2 goes bloop. Now, Randy, help me with this one here. How many things do you see wrong with this exchange?
Oh, there's just the writing is kind of awkward. First off, in terms of the storytelling's okay, but the I guess they're continuing right on with George Lucas's writing of script when they say you can't say this stuff.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. But the fact that he says stop sniveling, R2.
When does R2 ever snivel?
And what kind of a friendship did R2 and Han have that we don't know about?
Well, no, you'll see Master Solo.
Yes.
Yeah. He doesn't say Master Luke. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. So what's R2 saying bloop? He's saying, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring up something that Luke is saying here. He says, thanks, Han and Chewbacca. But I've got to stay here, at least till we can scout up a new world to become the main rebel base. Okay, so ding, ding, ding. That is a Force Awakens parallel. Not a Journey to the Force Awakens parallel.
Oh.
So what's interesting is in like Lost Stars and the Leia book Moving Target and some of the other, I've been reading so many lately that I might be, and even I think some of the comics, but they do make reference to the fact in this time period when we're reading now, the new EU, they make reference to the fact that they're always scouting for new worlds to become the main rebel base. So I found that interesting that even, back then and today, that's just what they have to do. And that's a nice parallel there that happens in both EU universes.
Boy, these writers were really thinking ahead, weren't they? All right, so next, Han and Chewie blast off in the Millennium Falcon, and Han says to Chewie, I'd give my Star Spurs to stay there and help Princess Leia regroup the rebels. Star Spurs. Why not just say Spurs?
Yes, this happens a lot in this
just
novel.
like at the last line of the movie adaptation where they call Princess the Space Princess.
Yep.
Yeah, we can connect the dots here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's I think the other thing we got to remember and put into context is they wrote and even illustrated these things, but I think even quicker with the writing. They had to write these things so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way this is written, I almost feel like it wasn't even a for sure thing that they were going to keep going. So they just kind of had something they put together at the last second.
Well, that is very true with this next panel. Now, Randy, tell me how many inconsistencies you see with this. So it's Han and Chewie in the cockpit of the Falcon, and Han once again says, if we don't get back to Dantooine and pay Jabba the Hutt, H-U-T, the money we promised him.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Dantooine?
I'm counting 3 inconsistencies. So, Sarah, you pointed out one.
Yep.
They're not going to Dantooine.
Yeah, they should be going back to Tatooine.
Right. Randy, do you see anything?
Well, that was the huge one when I was reading it. Is like, well, how does Han even? Well, I guess he would know a lot of the systems, but Dantooine is the wrong planet. And then the next panel right there is saying we got to go to Tatooine.
Yeah,
and it's like,
yeah.
I mean, I would have a better chance of understanding it if it was like this was the first panel and then the last panel they made that mistake. But these panels are right next to each other.
Yeah.
It's like, who's the edit? Did anybody edit this? Really? Did somebody just get a credit and they just whatever?
That's funny.
I noticed an inconsistency.
What's that?
Han's hair grew about 3 inches since from the previous panels.
Well, so you know what? If we're going to focus on hair, we'll never get through this. Now, I like the fact that they spelled Hutt H-U-T.
Oh, they did?
Yes, they do.
Oh, yeah, they
did.
Yeah, they had the shooting script, and the shooting script it does spell Hutt H-U-T-T.
Oh.
Wouldn't someone have said, wait a minute, are we sure Hutt is the right word here? Because this doesn't make any sense. But maybe look through it, look into it and see that, oh, wait a minute, if it's spelled H-U-T-T, it makes more sense.
Right.
Now, then Han also says, we're going to pay Jabba the Hutt the money we promised him. Shouldn't that be the money we owe him?
Yeah.
Well, same thing. Promise, owe.
Well, it's 2 different levels.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I was going to say that the impact of the word itself. Owed is a debt, and it's something that's following them. Promised is like people, tend to break promises a lot, and nobody's gonna say anything. It's like, that guy's just a flake. But when you owe somebody, that's different, and you got somebody on your tail.
Yeah, that's funny.
Especially when you got blaster happy bongos after you.
Oh, you're stealing my thunder.
Me too. All right, let's talk about these bongos. Now, is bongos the same as nerf herders, the same as moof milkers?
Well, if you're going back to the Phantom Menace, bongos are those water ships that Jar Jar takes Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan through the underbelly of Naboo.
Oh, oops.
But
I don't think they're referring to that.
No, I don't think so at all. Very, very funny. But now, Randy, look at the bottom of this same page right over here. And if you're following along on the omnibus, it is 118, correct?
Yes.
There's the bottom panel. You see these 2 dinosaurs. Now, I had to look at this
out of rock, I guess,
for quite a while because they're 2 dinosaurs, 2 purple dinosaurs. And first I'm thinking they're going to break out into I love you, you love me.
Wow. So I was confused by these 3 panels at the bottom.
Okay.
What's happening?
Well, Han is blasting away from Yavin.
Planet? Right.
Right. And now they're about to be intercepted by a rogue Star Destroyer.
Right. So, but the 3 panels are portraying him flying from Yavin close up.
Where
and then you
apparently
see...
there are some dinosaurs.
Right. And then what is this shield over? Is that supposed to be Yavin base?
Yeah, there's one panel with like a city under a bubble.
Yeah. What's up with that?
I think it's just supposed to suggest that they're flying through space, all these weird worlds that they're flying by.
I knew it was representing travel, but I was just a little confused.
Except what's interesting is he mentions light years. Now, in Star Wars, I don't remember them ever referring to hyperspace or anything in terms of years. Parsecs, we know that, but in terms of light years, which... Okay, I mean, this is really geeky science fiction stuff, and I've never looked at Star Wars as true science fiction. But this is kind of a whole, once you start adding years and time into the science fiction, everything kind of takes on a whole different things you have to consider, like in the Interstellar.
Mm-hmm.
The whole issue with time, and it's very important to science fiction, and how many years are on Earth and how many, because you have something to compare it to. So I don't know. It's weird because I'm never paying attention to science fiction type stuff with Star Wars, but on this, that like bothered me. That's like you added light years. So how old is Luke and Leia now on Yavin now that you've gotten to Dantooine and light years?
I think with this, they're like with Star Spurs and Space Princesses, they're just trying to, they're throwing out words that the readers could connect with. If we throw out too many hardcore words for the kids, they might lose it.
Right.
So I think something like that is just to keep them with the comic. That's my interpretation of that.
Well, I would pose that question to the listeners too, to see if that struck anything with them. Like, well, whoa, we have to consider time now and space travel in Star Wars.
Well, there are a lot of science fiction writers and readers out there within the Skywalker. So if you guys have an answer to that, let us know at Skywalking Pod.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, it's EU, so it doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
But still, it'd be fun to know.
Never mind. Yeah.
Oh.
There is another line that I've got to point out here, and that Han says, even after we pay off Jabba, there's still enough left of the treasure the Rebs gave us to buy a small planet. Now, how much money do they get for rescuing the princess?
I don't know.
They can
but
buy a small planet?
I know. How much
Who
money
are
did
they,
the
Marlon
rebels
Brando
have?
all of a sudden?
Yeah. Well, as far as I know, it should have been Princess Leia's money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But, the rebels are scraping by. Would Han say, you know what, how about enough money so I can buy a small planet in the Outer Rim?
Right.
It seems a little greedy, so I had to. There's a lot of lines that come out of Han's mouth that are just so un-Han-like, and
Right. Or maybe Han, like, before he helped save the,
But I can see how they're really upping the tension.
Okay.
Because when we see what's going to happen in a few minutes, we
Right.
kind of have an idea of how much, well, spoiler alert, is being stolen from Han.
Right.
So I understand that line of dialogue now.
Well, but the other thing it made me think was how could the rebels afford to pay him that much treasure?
Well,
Right.
yeah,
and if they could, why are they still doing on Yavin? If they had enough to buy their own planet, hand it over to Han, it's kind of like it reminded me of like the the parent whose kid doesn't barely have enough to eat, but they're walking around in gold chains and stuff, and nice clothes. It's like I just found it hard to swallow that they got that much money, because the rebels would need that, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, they're scraping by just to get an additional fighter for their fleet.
Yeah.
But yet, Han, here's enough money, you can buy your own fleet. We're good here. We destroyed the Death Star with, 6 X-Wings? All right, so now Han and Chewie are intercepted by a rogue Star Destroyer, and somehow Han knows it's not manned by the Empire, but by space pirates.
Not pirates.
Space pirates. Now, Han engages in a dogfight with some small chrome sentry ships, but gets caught in a very pretty yellow tractor beam. That's very 70s right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Han stares out of the huge bay window of the Millennium Falcon at all the incoming ships and says, X-Wingers, TIE Fighters, every kind of small battle spacer I've seen.
X-Wingers.
X-Wingers?
Yeah.
Did you not just join in the Battle of the Death Star? Did you not buy the Kenner toy? Come on, Han.
What cockpit is he staring? Is that supposed to be his cockpit?
Yeah, it looks like the big Cloud City window that Luke fell out
Oh my
of.
goodness.
That's a huge window.
Gigantic.
It's a very malleable universe or galaxy where things
Yeah.
change in size.
Seriously.
All right, Sarah. Now, this is the one part that I want you to tackle.
Okay.
On page 121.
Page 121 of the omnibus, we have my favorite panel at the very top, where we see the reveal of the space pirate Crimson Jack and his gang. Crimson Jack is right in the middle of the panel. He is sporting a black unitard.
You know what?
But-
Should we point out that it's legless?
Yes.
The legless.
So
pair
he's
of
wearing
unitards.
boots. He's wearing boots. Then he's showing all kinds of skin up to the unitard.
So it's pretty
Wow.
much a bodysuit with
Yeah.
no leg coverings or no arm coverings.
Nope. And it looks like it looks kind of armored, doesn't it? It's
Well, I think that's just his rippling abs.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
They
And
have a great-
rippling arms, rippling legs, and once again, Richard, I
They've-
really want to see this on you.
Now,
Oh.
if there's enough response from the listeners out there who want to see me wearing that for the Star Wars Dark Side Challenge in April, well, maybe, just maybe, I will.
That is like awesome.
Yeah, and he's surrounded by all these other space pirates.
Yep.
Now, Randy, would you fear these space pirates just by looking at them?
Only if I was at the gym. It's like, I think they want my machine. I'm gonna get out of here.
Lunk alarm. Lunk alarm. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
alarm.
If you notice, none of them have pants on.
Yeah.
It's
Well-
like they're pantsless pirates.
Either pants or they're wearing like skin tight white spandex,
Leggings.
maybe? Leggings?
But-
Yeah, but you're right. The one's behind him.
Oh, he's modest, I guess.
Yeah. Holy cow.
Now, oddly enough, there is one stormtrooper that, for me, seems out of place, but then there is a narration box that says, there is even the white stoic armor of a fallen stormtrooper, strangely out of place.
Thanks, narration. You cleared that right up.
Yeah, and I'm guessing they threw in that stormtrooper just to, once again, keep the kids connected.
I think that, but I think also it was. It's actually one of the few things in here that I in terms of the weird stuff in here that they're throwing in, that I liked because it keeps it in the universe because there's so many stormtroopers and there's so many stormtroopers that get hit. There would probably be a lot of armor lying around the galaxy that people would repurpose. And in Empire Strikes Back, as we know, Dengar's armor is snowtrooper armor.
Right.
So repurposed. So I always took it that Dengar had found that and just repurposed it. So I think this makes sense in terms of keeping, while they're expanding the galaxy, they're keeping the galaxy in the same area by putting things like stormtroopers in there. Not necessarily a stormtrooper, but the armor.
Right. Yeah, that's the same, as a side note, the same idea I had about The Force Awakens when we went to Maz Kanata's castle. I always thought there should have been like a Rhodian or an Aqualash or an Thorian, just to, like you said, Randy, keep it in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little. Actually, the second time I saw The Force Awakens, I noticed that more because there's so much going on the first time you see it.
Yeah.
But the second time I was like, yeah, there are were there Rhodians or. I mean, one of them looks kind of like a hammerhead. I don't know if he's the same species, and one of them kind of looks like what are they, a Yezum or something like that?
The Yuzum?
It is.
All right, now going on with the story here. Now, this is in contention for one of my favorite lines in the issue, where you see a close-up of a hand with a blaster, and someone says, "Drop it, Star Hopper, before I drop you." That's just classic. And they do use that term a lot in this issue, Star Hopper.
Yes, I forgot to mention that at the beginning. It's like a theme almost.
Yeah.
Skywalker to Star Hopper.
Yeah, but I like that.
That makes sense.
You know what? I'm going to add that into my everyday vocabulary.
Okay.
All right, then Crimson Jack appears, and says, I'm glad he didn't force you to kill him. I'd hate to have to bury the illustrious Han Solo. Now, when I read that, my mind just flashed to The Force Awakens.
Why?
Well, we see what happens to Han Solo.
Oh.
Yeah. Am I the only one that thought that? Yeah.
I put it out of my mind.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, if he said the holy Han Solo, I might.
And whenever we see Han Solo close to death now, I always think,
Oh.
just wait for another 38 years.
Yeah.
Well, we forgot to call to attention, though, yet another hairstyle change for Han Solo. Right above that panel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lady's haircut.
Yep.
I think I used to have a neighbor that looked like that. That was the ever-popular flip do. Now, look on page 122 of the omnibus, and Crimson Jack says that they are all there to steal the cargo, but without even an argument, Han just says, okay, here you go, and leads them right to the underground, the panel to where the cargo is being hidden.
You'd think at least, okay, go find it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you know what? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have anything here. But this is such a Phasma moment. That without an argument, it's just, here you go. This is what you wanted. You have a blaster. So, didn't Han Solo say in The Force Awakens that he can talk himself out of situations?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Maybe by this point.
Yes, he does. Every time.
Yeah. Twice even. Apparently he hadn't developed those skills by this part here because he just leads them right there, which I found very, very disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was the rest of the comic I was waiting for where the ruse was, and okay, he's got something up as like the treasure's fake, or there's a bomb on it, or blue ink or something, and it never happened. But I would like to call out that for maybe only the second time in Star Wars comics at this point, we finally get a Chewbacca looking Chewbacca.
Where do you see this?
Right there where the line is, let's show him the loot. The close-up of Chewbacca's face.
His nose seems a little big.
Well, that's a shadow. The shadow on the right, it's going over there. But, it's not perfect, but it looks...
Right.
Oh, I still want to see more fur on his face. It looks like someone shaved right around his eyes and nose.
Yeah, it's growing in.
It's getting there. Now, after... I want to say Phasma. Now, after Crimson Jack and his band of unitard-wearing thugs steal Han's... Well, did they steal it, or did they just take it? It doesn't seem like there's anything really that high tense there.
I would say they accepted it. They just handed it over.
So he and his Crimson Jack and his band of thugs take off.
Unfortunately, they leave.
Yes, they do. Well, you wanted to see more of them.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
More of his legs.
And now Han mentions to Chewie the planet Aquilay. And there's a passage here where Han says, without that treasure, Jabba will soon have a price on our heads that'll make us the target of every bounty hunter this side of Aquilay. Now, that name rung a bell inside my head because it had been heard before in the Star Wars universe. So I looked it up, and in the shooting script, it says that Luke Skywalker still referenced Aquilay along with the planet Sullust.
Sullust, oh.
Sullust, yeah. But this line was eventually cut out of the movie. Interesting that the writers hung on to this planet and used it here. They're not really known for their research, but they must have seen that in the shooting script and just thought this was an interesting name, just like George Lucas does, and doesn't throw it away, puts it to the side.
Yeah.
So whenever I see a name of a planet or just something out of the norm, I like to look it up to see if that has a reference to anything, and oddly enough, that they surprise me.
It does. Cool.
So, good for you, Roy Thomas. Good for you.
All right,
on this panel.
All right, now what happens next?
Okay,
in
next,
this comic.
Han and Chewie, wanting to avoid Jabba since they just lost the reward, hide out on the remote mining planet of Aduba 3. And Han Solo says, "Chewie, we're home." Well, he says, "Well, here we are, Chewie, home sweet home."
Oh, wow.
I just wanted to make more of a Force Awakens parallel.
I didn't even catch that.
I like your attempt at the gravelly voice, by the way.
Chewie, we're home.
That's very nice. I like it.
So when I first read that, I thought, oh, I got to make note of that.
Yeah. Wow.
Now, as Han and Chewie approach the spaceport, they see something going on regarding a bantha and an insect-looking guy dressed like a priest, and Han says, I can't identify the exact religion. I guess I shouldn't have skipped so much Sunday school as a kid.
Sunday school. Come on.
Wait a minute. So we
In
know that there's
space?
Sunday school in space, but they also
Wait.
have days of the week in space.
Now, why didn't they call it Space Sunday School?
Yeah.
That I could have been on board with.
I know. See?
But what do they learn in Sunday school?
I don't know.
On Corellia.
That's a total Earth reference. Come on. Wow.
Because as a kid, all my friends went to Sunday school.
Yeah.
So for me, that made more of an impact.
I went to Sunday school.
Did you?
Uh-huh.
I couldn't
You
get up
didn't?
that early on on a Saturday morning or Sunday or
Sunday.
I guess Sunday school would have been on a Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah, my mom made me go for just a little bit when she got remarried. He went to a different church than I did growing up, and when I wasn't with my mom, actually before that, I never hardly even went to any church or anything like that. But this was a new place, and he wanted everybody in the house to go to church, and so it was weird, and I was very rebellious about it, and I was a terror in the Sunday school classes there that they made me go to. I didn't feel part of, so I just was. I questioned everything, and I probably turned a few kids into atheists there, and because I had to make it fun somehow for me, because I did not want to be there, and waking me up so early on a Sunday, it's like, and I didn't even work yet, so and I just knew that was wrong, so.
My grandmother always wanted me to go to Sunday school. I think if she had seen this comic book, she would have used that as a tool against me. See, look, Han Solo went to Sunday school. Now, Rich, you should go to Sunday school. And the few times that I did go to Sunday school, I would always have to go wearing my Darth Vader mask. This was the Halloween
Why?
Ben Cooper mask.
Right?
Just because I wanted to stay home and play Star Wars.
Oh.
And I thought, if I'm going to go, I'm going to make it worth my while and wear the Darth Vader mask. That way, everyone's going to think I'm Darth Vader. Yeah, I think after the second time they said, you know what, Rich can stay home next Sunday.
Oh.
All he does is draw Star Wars anyway.
That's what happened to me. They eventually just asked them to leave me home. They're like, you need to not bring him.
I was a nice
like-
Catholic girl.
I was like, victory.
Well, I was a nice Catholic girl and went to Sunday school and learned a lot.
Show off.
I know, right?
Well, sorry. I'll sit over here now, okay? Now, going on with more of a Star Trek theme here.
Yes.
There's a purple-skinned alien wearing a green vest. Yeah, and he yells out, he ain't putting no Borg in our mounds.
Borg?
Yes.
Now, whoa, red flag here, red flags.
So not only does he look like a Star Trek alien.
Yes, the Borg is totally a reference to Star Trek. Now, did this comic come out before Borg? I'm pretty sure it did.
Well,
Because
wasn't
the
that like
Borg
a
were
Next
part of-
Generation
yeah,
thing?
it was
Well, that
Next
came out like the
Generation,
late
so the
80s,
yeah.
the mid to late 80s.
Mhm.
This was set 1977.
Yeah, so I found that interesting. I wonder if some of the people, working on Star Trek had obviously been fans or read this. And I mean, because Borg, when they describe it in this particular comic, is exactly what a Borg is
A
in
cyborg.
Star Trek, which is half man, half cyborg, because...
Half man, half robot.
Right, because the cyborg part takes over your brain in Star Trek.
Yeah, so now this part sets up the story.
Basically, a whole bunch of villagers are mad that this guy wants to bury the Borg in
Spacer's
their...
Hill, where all the best
Pilots get buried?
Yeah, like all the people who fought in a war or aliens and creatures.
I think it's just pilots.
It's very sacred.
Right.
And these guys don't want this half man, half machine
Right, 'cause
buried
they're-
up there.
Because they're prejudiced against machines.
Right. And now we're coming in right in the middle of this scene because we see an insect guy whose bantha is dragging a glass coffin, and they don't want this Borg to be buried up there.
Right. So they're trying to molest the insect guy, I guess, or
Molest?
take him down.
Okay.
No, I mean, yeah, that was the wrong word.
Wow, Sarah taking it there.
No.
Sarah's mind is still on Crimson Jack.
Yeah. Oh.
Now that
All right. But what I found interesting is that Han and Chewie intervene. Now, if they're trying to lay low on a planet,
yeah.
why would they intervene? And they don't even know the full story yet before they start intervening. So
Right.
I found that kind of odd.
Not to mention that just one issue ago or 2 issues ago, Han Solo is reluctant to help anybody.
Yep.
Now he's just jumping in at the first sign of trouble.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, but I'm in.
Yeah.
Right.
Now he's Batman.
Now this has a Star Wars theme going on here because the galaxy is not really welcoming to droids.
Okay.
Because of the whole battle droid instance in the Clone Wars, and even before the Clone Wars, how the Trade Federation and the Separatists all used battle droids to take over different planets.
Roger,
Okay.
Roger.
So that as I've read in, I wish I could cite the source, but this aversion to droids came because of the battle droids.
Okay.
Now they're using it here, and they also used it in Star Wars.
We don't serve their kind here.
What?
Your droids. They'll have to wait outside. We don't want them here.
That's because of the battle droids.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so I like the fact, I don't know if they were going with that, but if they had read some behind-the-scenes notes from George Lucas,
Right.
I don't know if he would have, I don't know how far back the theme goes, but I know that it's in there somewhere because in Star Wars, when the bartender says that, there's more than just, hey, we don't want droids in here, but there's a reasoning. He doesn't want droids in his cantina.
Well, I obviously didn't know about battle droids yet, but I think there's some social commentary going on here too. In 1977, things were still tense. And not that they're not tense now. But with race relations, and people still dealing with prejudices, and even with post Vietnam, people still. Divided over that, and people treating people really bad and poorly, and judging people based on whether the color of their skin or their religion, like in this one, or just being different in any way, So I think there's I'll hand it to the writers on that, and it is very consistent with Marvel comics to keep putting hiding social issues in the real world within the comics.
Yeah, we saw a lot of that in the 60s and 70s with Star Trek and Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, and that really, when I read that in here, I joke around a lot and I try to be fun, but in all seriousness, I take these things very, very serious in what generations are reading and what's getting put into their head, and I think this is really important in art and in writing that popular things where people are taking the opportunity, like Stan Lee started with Fantastic Four, and all throughout the 60s and 70s with giving a different point of view to the reader, usually a kid, on social issues and what it must feel like, within the X-Men to be so different and everybody hates you, even though you're saving everybody's life.
Right.
So I'm happy and I'm in a way proud of Marvel and them for doing that, because I just think it's so important in our culture.
A soapbox is useful here.
Very much so. All right, so now that all the village thugs have been chased away and Chewie's been throwing them around, the bug priest, he's never really given a name. Han calls him Pera, P-E-R-A.
Well, that's an interesting panel there.
All right, so
How does he know to call, I guess, being part of the galaxy. But yeah, so all right, you all right, Pera? Han says to the bug guy, and Pera, there's a note here, is High Galactic for male parent.
Which related to our real world is, and Sarah, I used to be Catholic myself too, but
right,
a priest is also referred to as
father.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So it's like Han saying padre.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he says, "Yes, my fee," says the bug, and fee means male child,
which is how do priests
like
usually?
My son.
Exactly.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
So they had commentary there.
Yeah, so they went like all the way around saying what
Right.
He's a priest.
Catholic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now that all the thugs have been chased away, the priest tells Han, whoever buries the cyborg gets this bag of coins.
Right.
That the cyborg had on him. So all of a sudden, Han's in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, at this point, did you feel like the priest was setting Han and Chewie up?
I can see where you're going with that, Richard, because in in a pirate / cowboy world, everybody is always setting everybody up.
Right.
So it is kind of weird that he's just so nice and he's just, here's the coins that I had and you can have them now.
Yeah, I don't know why he just doesn't get back on his bantha and keep on moving. So I
That didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
That he didn't do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the villagers have all scattered, and all he's got to do is walk 50 feet, and he's out
Right.
of town,
Right.
and he's up and away. So I thought, okay, what's happening here? But as we see, within moments, Han and Chewie are attacked once again by the villagers,
Yep.
who say, "Go back where you came from, you dirty Borg lickers."
Wow.
Awesome. And within seconds, there is another street battle. Blasters are drawn and fired, battle axes are swung, and before long, the thugs flee and the bug priest returns. So at the beginning of the battle, he's like, yeah, I get a phone call, I gotta go.
Yes.
You know,
But now,
suddenly he's back.
in the middle of this battle, I'd like to bring something up that Chewie gets all what would you call it? Like crazy with violent, like he sees red basically.
Right.
And it mentions something that this Wookiee hails from a world where violence is such an everyday occurrence.
Yeah, that's not the Sheik that I know.
Yeah, that there are 15. Oh, here we go. Now, this is interesting that in this comic it mentions a 7-foot anthropoid, they're talking about Chewie, who hails from a world where violence is such an everyday occurrence that there are 15 separate words for it in the Wookiee vocabulary.
Yeah.
Violence on Kashyyyk?
Yeah,
What?
I don't know.
So I found that very weird.
But what I always love seeing in the comics is when they refer back to the cover panel. So on the top of 129, we see Han and Chewie in their battle poses, almost like we see on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I always like when they do that. It's like, oh, okay, now I see where the main the high point of the story comes from, and that's it right there.
Almost like we see in The Force Awakens on Takodana when they're fighting off.
The First Order.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chewie's got a big bowcaster.
Yep.
That'd be funny if Han just reached for it.
So I have a question. Are banthas on this world like sheep? They get shaved for their hair?
Yeah, something.
Yeah, because this bantha here, he's big and he's purple and he's very cuddly looking.
Yeah.
I want this toy.
We've covered a lot here, and just wanted to call back to some of the what is almost giving this comic art its character is the inconsistencies. Now we've talked about Han's hair changing in seemingly every single panel,
Right.
but Chewbacca
Mm-hmm.
looks so much more different in every panel than the original 6 comics. And I call back to the panel that we covered with Bantha with the glass case behind him.
Uh-huh.
I don't. It's okay. At least in a lot of the Chewbacca pictures, there's some resemblance. I don't know what's going on in that picture there. Do you see what I'm looking at?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah.
Look at his face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you had shown me that picture, out of context, I wouldn't have known it was Chewbacca.
Yeah. So I think it's it's like I said, it's giving the comic some of its character, how inconsistent some of these drawings are.
Yeah. He's got that saliva hanging from his mouth, too.
Yeah, and sometimes his head is tall. Sometimes it looks like he's got like a buzz cut.
Sometimes it's shaven his face, sometimes it's not.
Yeah, and then even the way it's drawn sometimes is very cartoony, and some of it is very loose. Some of it is trying to be realistic. But and I'm not even saying all of this as a criticism. I'm just
As an artist, you're just pointing it out.
I'm just saying it's what it is.
Right. Okay. All right. Fair enough. But what I want to point out is that Han again speaks in his very Shakespearean manner when he says, some of the star hoppers sprawled around here are going to be joining him, meaning the cyborg, come the morrow. Come
Wow.
the morrow.
Come the morrow. When did he get a English accent there?
I don't know. But unfortunately in this scene, the cuddly bantha does not make it out alive.
Oh, I know. I was sad, and it's a horrible picture.
Yeah, with
With the
blood coming from his
out of
nose. Oh.
I don't
Just
like
want
it.
to go give him a big hug.
I know.
Okay,
I don't like it.
Okay, I'm covering it. I'm
Okay,
covering it.
thank you.
Now Chewie doesn't like it either because now he's gonna be the one to carry the cyborg.
Yeah, he doesn't like that at all.
Not at all. So Han, Chewie, and Para the priest are now making it over to Spacer's Hill to bury the cyborg.
Mm-hmm.
We're never giving any background on this cyborg and on who he is, and
Yeah.
I wish we had known a little bit of something. But nope, not gonna happen. All right, now Han, Chewie, and the priest make it to Spacer's Hill. Now, just as they're burying the cyborg, Han says that he needs a drink and asks where the nearest cantina is. It's like, well, Han, you didn't do all that work. That was Chewie. I think Chewie even makes a sound there, like, seriously?
Yeah.
Are you taking credit for this?
Yeah. Now, what I find interesting is they go into the cantina, and Han, because he just got this money, is ordering rounds for everyone.
Yeah.
What is up with you? Got a price on your head. Why are you throwing away money?
Now, is this more of a cantina or a gentleman's club?
Oh.
Gonna call it Gentleman's Kanji Club.
Yeah.
Because they're the only males in there, and all the females there look like they belong more in Star Trek with their very, very, very skimpy, skin-tight outfits. And that would be funny if somehow Jabba were there, or at least tuning into some kind of a transmission, and he's saying, hey, Han, you're not buying drinks with your money, you're buying it with my money.
Exactly.
Now, if you look at the bottom of page 133, look at that bottom left-hand panel where Chewie's making some time with a couple of space bimbos.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently those space bimbos, they don't see Chewie's wedding ring. Now, what if Mala were to come storming in there?
Oh, she'd be upset.
It is never wise to upset a Wookiee wife.
I am upset.
I love that huge, like laughing smile that Chewbacca has in that picture.
Well, come on, Randy, wouldn't you be?
It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
I'm loving the yellow-skinned alien on the right-hand side who looks like she belongs in a circus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or jumping out of a big birthday cake. Love it. All right, so just then, Han and a blue lady, whose name we never really find out, they take a walk, and she disappears a few moments later, and Han comes face to face with three Asian guys wearing boxing robes. And they have a proposition for Han, unless, of course, he has an aversion to dying. Bum, bum, bum. Cliffhanger ending.
Oh.
And then there's Richard's favorite thing down there. The question mark inside the bubble.
Yeah, so Han is just saying, question mark!
Yep. Where is that question mark?
Yeah, no dialogue. Just question mark.
Yep.
That's funny. All right, now that we're at the end of this issue, new planets, new perils. Randy, what is your reaction now that we've gone through it? Has it changed since since before we started?
Well, a few things have been brought to my attention by the different points of views of you, Sarah, and you, Richard, and but basically it's the same. I appreciate the efforts to expand on the universe and the themes of the Western and the pirates, and an attempt to continue the personality of Han Solo. But there are a lot of inconsistencies that even if there were not going to be an Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi at this point, that they don't fit in with the Han Solo character, even at a very basic level. So I still maintain that I feel like this was a rather sloppily put together comic with the writing and the art. But there are things that I enjoy too, with the introduction of the pirates. I like that. I liked the introduction of the priests, and I like the social commentary here. So is it as good as any of the original 6 comics? No, but it is what you guys mentioned. It's an okay first step towards bigger and I don't know about better, but a bigger universe.
Right.
And from this point on, it gets even weirder.
Oh.
Really?
Now, Randy, before we started going over the Marvel comics, if someone had said to you, name me 3 characters from the Marvel comics line, what 3 characters would you come up with?
Oh, well, there would have to be, I'll save my favorite for last, but there would have to be Sergi X.
I'm not familiar with this character.
Sergi X, we will meet him in the next issue.
Oh, okay. All right.
Also in the next issue, this is funny, my 3 favorite are all in the next issue. And I will save the history behind that Sergi X. I will save that for the next, because it's very surprising and interesting if you don't know the history behind that character.
Okay.
And it's very personal to me. Well, I'll just put that out there. That's the cliffhanger on that character.
Okay.
The second favorite would be, okay, you're not going to believe this when I say this. There's a character actually named Don Juan Quixote.
I remember that.
What?
I remember him.
Yes.
And Juan is spelled W-A-N.
Yeah, like Obi-Wan, but his name is Don Juan Quixote. And not only is the name ridiculous, he looks like a Spaniard with he looks like Salvador Dali and actually Don Quixote.
Wow. My goodness.
Oh, the memories.
Which to me, and we'll talk more about this in issue 8, it's just like they were almost daring to get this title taken away from them. Like,
wow.
We don't even want to be here. Kind of like I was in Sunday school, so I'm going to do everything that I can to get myself out of this. Just be annoying and crazy. And so that's that. And then finally, the third character that we're going to meet, which from the expanded universe of Marvel, classic Marvel, is, of course, Jackson.
Oh, There you go. Now, for me, if someone had said, Rich, what are 3 characters from the Marvel Comics universe? I would have said Hoojibs,
Yep.
Jackson, and Crimson Jack.
Now, does
Now,
Crimson Jack appear again?
he does.
Oh, good.
But that's kind of where I'm leading into. I thought he was really wasted.
Oh.
I mean, unused in this issue.
Right.
Because we see him for a couple of panels and he's out.
We see his legs in a couple panels.
Yeah, I like the character, and apparently you like the way he dresses. So I thought 3/4 of this story could have been scrapped and saved Crimson Jack for another issue. And unless they're going to come back to Spacer's Hill, which I think is a fantastic location, and I can't remember because I hadn't read these comics since 1977. I can't recall if they do, but it's a fantastic location for other very religious things to go on, very spiritual.
Okay.
So unless they're going to come back there, I thought they could have just started with Han and Chewie landing on Aduba 3 and walking to the cantina and then being propositioned by the 3 characters from Big Trouble in Little China wearing boxing robes.
But I guess that's what's going to happen in the next issue.
Yeah, so it does give you the feel that, hey, we're not really sure where to take this and we got to slow things down because until we hear from George Lucas and he knows what he's doing with The Empire Strikes Back, we're going to really take our time and milk things out.
Right.
So I think that's what's going on here. Now, let's talk about our favorites.
Okay.
Now, Sarah, what is your favorite panel in New Planets, New Perils?
I think I already mentioned it.
I know that, which is why I wanted to start with you.
All right. It is on page 121 of the omnibus, the very top. It is the reveal of Crimson Jack. I just can't get over that. I really can't. And you know what? I'm the more I think about this, have you guys seen 7 Brides for 7 Brothers?
No.
No,
Oh, okay.
not at all.
The main character.
Chick flick.
I know. Okay, hold on. So Crimson Jack, I mean, if there was a Howard Keel lookalike in the Star Wars galaxy, there you go. I mean, if you've seen 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, Howard Keel, he's got a big red mane, big red beard. He's very burly, just like that. And he starts singing. What I want to see is Crimson Jack start busting out a song.
Well, we haven't gone through issue 8 yet, so you never know. You never know. Hey, this came out at the same time they were writing the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Uh-huh.
So you never know who could bust into a song.
Yeah, so that's my favorite panel, and it is very fun with movement. You know, all the pirates are infiltrating the Falcon, and coming on board with Crimson Jack right there in the middle.
All right, that was pretty much a given.
Yes,
Randy, what is your favorite panel in this issue?
Okay, well, this was really hard because obviously I was not a fan of the art in this one. Which I'm happy to say that in future issues the art gets better. So I had to kind of go for, oh man, it was really tough. First of all, I think my alternate favorite would be on the next page from Crimson Jack's reveal, down at the bottom for personal reasons, where you see Han and Chewie looking at the space cruiser flying away. Chewbacca is sporting my goatee.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So that's my alternate for personal reasons.
There you go.
You see that?
That is funny.
So there's that. But in terms of art, which that's usually where my favorites come from, I would have to say the page opposite of Crimson Jack's reveal, of the space battle or the chase there in space. It's not great, but I really like that kind of space jet looking thing. It looks a lot like the Lichtenstein painting that they took from the comics, and then maybe it might be another copy of that. But it just, I don't know, the blasting away, and it's of everything in this comic, that is probably the best illustrated thing in my opinion. Again, I'm not really faulting or putting down the artists at all. They have to put these things together so fast, and I think that was the case in this. They just and they might not have really even cared, to be honest with you.
Oh, I don't want to believe that, but we all know it's true.
Well, these guys, they work on so many projects, and in my own world of art, when I get kind of hunkered down with art, I have to make a point to find a focus on the project I'm working on and find something that is interesting, especially when, for instance, when I was working on the Empire Strikes Back illustrated for Topps, I really wanted to get to that project. But I had a couple other things I had to do first before I started that I really didn't want to do. And I noticed for myself that, my line was getting a little sloppy. I wasn't focusing on it. So I had to kind of take a break and make sure and put Empire Strikes Back aside until I got that done. And it's really difficult for an artist to do that. And especially for comic artists this is every comic. There's so much artwork they have to complete by a certain time. So while I'm criticizing the actual art, I'm not criticizing the artists, because I understand everything that has to go into this.
Well, it's good seeing it from that point of view too, because there's so many things we could say. Why did they do this, and why does this look like that? But you're right; they had to just whip out these issues, and if this is a monthly issue, how long do you think they really have to put this whole issue together?
Less than a month, because they usually try to stay they would like to stay like 2 months ahead usually.
Wow.
But when you have so many titles going on at the same time that they have to produce.
Right.
And a lot of them are helping and to get things out too, that they never get credit.
Right. Now, for me, my favorite panel comes on page 125 in the omnibus, and that's the top panel where we see that very cuddly looking bantha. I just want to hug this bantha. He's very furry. He's not he's not shaggy like we see in the movies.
No.
This is a very soft brown fur, and he's looking over his shoulder, and he just looks like maybe an infant bantha. Now, if you look at the right of the frame, look at Chewbacca's face. I think
wait, that's Chewbacca?
Of all the Chewies that we've seen in the entire line, I think this is the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's also very stocky.
Yeah, he's very buff. But like Sarah, like you just said, that's Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what
if
you call that.
If not for that
face.
bandolier, I wouldn't have known it.
All right, now I know we kind of went over some of these during our discussion, but Randy, what is your favorite line of dialogue?
Again, it was really tough.
Yeah.
But this might sound weird, but I really liked the blue lady talking. Why don't we take a walk and swap life stories? Starhopper, there's that name, Starhopper. You tell me yours, and I'll tell you mine. So there's a lot of innuendo there, and I like innuendo. And for me, I think it's like they had the opportunity in the original. I don't know if it was in the original cut, but I think we've all seen that footage of Han Solo having his arm around the girl in the cantina.
Jenny?
That they didn't use. Jenny.
Yeah.
And they took that out. You
Right.
know, so the most admiration, is that the right word? Where there's anything like that going on is when Leia kisses Luke before they swing on over the chasm. So I like the fact that they're introducing, in the whole book, like I said, the pirates is a cool idea, and, but they're introducing that there is flirting, that there is, there's sexuality in the Star Wars universe as well, which rounds it all out and gives it texture and makes it more like a universe or a galaxy that we could actually visit at some point,
Well, judging by Chewie's expression when he's hanging out with those two girls,
Yeah.
I think he agrees with you, Randy.
Wow.
That was almost my favorite panel.
Now, my favorite line of dialogue is something that Randy stole at the beginning of this show, and that's when Han says, "As soon as the crater's cooled, Jabba would have us both zapped by one of his blaster-happy bongos." So since, Randy, you already mentioned that, I'm going to go on to an honorable mention that I have here, and that's when the bug priest says to the thugs during the street battle, "Begone, defilers of the sacred way."
Wow.
Now, that's something I want to use in my everyday vernacular.
That's kind of like how we have adopted "The Day Beckons"
The day beckons, right?
in our dialogue, which
Yes.
is from Peggy Carter.
Yes, it is.
Peggy Carter.
Or FORP.
Yes.
FORP.
Yes.
FORP.
Yeah.
So if you ever get sick of hearing me saying, "Begone, defilers of the sacred way," you just let me know, because I'm going to work that in whenever I can.
Okay. Wow.
You know what? Let's give this a spin. Randy, say something that maybe someone who's not as into Star Wars would say.
Oh man, The Force Awakens is just it was the original Star Wars. all
"Begone,
over again.
defilers of the sacred way." Do you see how effective that is?
I think it works.
It does.
People will be so surprised that came out of your mouth, they won't know what to do.
We'll try it again. Here we go. Try this one. Of all the great characters in Star Wars, I think the best that was created was Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, I got to agree with that. I couldn't use that quote there because I agree with that.
Oh my goodness.
So, Sarah, what is your favorite line of dialogue?
All right, so on page 129 of the omnibus, there's a whole panel of narration where Han and Chewie are starting to fight the villagers. And at the end of that, it says, "Together they stand side by side, then back to back in turns, their weapons making a bitter swath in the multicolored, very-shaped mass which swirls and ebbs around them." What are we reading?
Well, you know what? If they had drawn that,
I know.
I'd be so excited.
Yeah,
but
seriously.
Not so much.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. It was painting a picture with words, and the narrators got a little carried away there with their dialogue.
And then the artists are like, seriously, I got to draw this now?
Yeah.
I have 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And we're gonna give Han a Prince Valiant haircut now.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It goes from Barry Manilow to Prince Valiant to Buster
He kind of
Crab.
has Luke Skywalker's hair, honestly. That kind of long bob look.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, in one panel, he's even got the Dorothy Hamill.
Mm.
All right, now, how about this? What is your favorite sound effect? It could be an explosion, a laser blast, a noise from an alien. Randy, what do you think?
Probably Chewbacca's noises. I like the fact that they kind of tried to vary it up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got Rurg and Urk
Yeah, we got Rug.
and Gurg.
Yeah, and GRONK.
Yep. Wrong.
GRONK. Which it's
And
they're
Gronk.
almost, and he says harump, which sounds like harumph.
Right.
Yeah.
In Blazing Saddles. That guy didn't give me a harumph. Give the governor a harumph. Harumph, harumph.
So you're going with the Wookiee sounds.
Yeah, the Wookiee sounds. They're almost creating a language. They're trying to. It seems like.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, you're right. Sarah, what about you? What's your favorite sound effect?
Sound effect? I don't. None of them really stood out to me. So I would have to be with Randy on the whole. Let's see. Well, does Crimson Jack make a sound effect?
I don't think unitards make a sound effect.
Damn.
Boing.
All right. Bauga, bauga. So I don't have a favorite sound effect.
Nothing jumps out at you.
No. I if anything, the Chewie noises, but
Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to third that.
Okay.
If you look on page 132 of the omnibus,
okay.
Chewie says, "Schnoop."
Because Chewie can make a S noise.
Well, it's CH. Shnoop. This is after he sees the woman in blue and yellow who looks like she belongs in the Marvel universe. Mm-hmm. He says, Shnoop. Is that the same thing as
Hubba hubba?
Schwing?
I think it's hubba hubba.
Hubba hubba. Okay.
Or is it Shnoop?
Oh.
Well, that would be Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right, so what do you say we wrap up our first episode of Classic Marvel Star Wars Comics with Randy Martinez right here, because I think we've gone over everything that we could.
I think we did. New planets, new perils.
All right, so Randy, before we do wrap things up, tell us what's going on in the world of Randy Martinez.
Oh, wow. Well, 2016, looking forward to a lot of great things coming up. And the biggest thing that I'm excited about is my Kylo Ren painting, which is now a official Star Wars print, which we discussed. Yeah, I think we discussed that.
Yeah, it's in the Disney.
Oh, that's right.
The
yeah,
store.
and I'm excited because I'm getting all these reports from fans that my artwork is in the Disney store. Mm-hmm. I'm happy to report it's selling very well.
Ooh.
And you guys make sure you get one. You can get one in my store. You can get one online at Acme Archives. And there's other things that I can't talk about, of course, with Star Wars always happening. And but with that, I'm very proud of that piece, as it was I believe the very first fine art of Kylo Ren that was available.
Wow! Now, you did this just yourself, right? Was it commissioned at all when you started?
No, the story behind this was I was at Comic-Con last year. Mm-hmm. And I always do a painting demo at the Holbein booth. Holbein Paints endorses me, and they're great. I love their paints. And so I decided that the summer I should just do something everybody's talking about. People were just starting to talk about Kylo Ren and then the new Star Wars movie. So just as my demo, I started painting this picture off of a photo I found online. And while I was painting it, a couple people came behind me that were wearing masks and well dressed, and my girl Denise noticed them at first, and she was talking to them, keeping them there. And it was very peculiar because one had an Ant-Man mask on and one had a V for Vendetta mask. And turns out that the guy in the Ant-Man mask was J.J. Abrams.
Oh yeah, you told us about this.
Yeah, and the guy in the V for Vendetta mask, I found out later, was I cannot think of the director of the Avengers, Joss Whedon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so they watched me paint for a while, and JJ leaned in and told me it was him, and I could see that it was him through the Ant-Man goggles, and they were wearing the mask so they could get around Comic-Con without being noticed. So I took the art when I was done at Comic-Con and walked it over to Acme Archives and told them the story I just told you. Probably elaborated a little bit more. But anyways, they said, we love it. Let's make it into a print.
Nice.
So here we are, and now it's doing really well. And I guess one of the coolest things is when I get all the messages from the fans are great, but when I have friends that I went to high school and junior high school that I haven't heard from in 20 years or so, and they find me on Facebook and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I saw your artwork at Disneyland or Disney World," and it's like there's something really cool about that people even remember me, that I was doing art or playing basketball or whatever I was doing in high school.
Oh, we had a blast over the holidays. We saw all your artwork on T-shirts and stockings and so much merchandise.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun too. It makes me feel really good that the fans love it so much. I humbly, is that a word? I think I humbly am proud that it seems like Darth Vader playing piano is kind of a Christmas classic now for Star Wars.
It's so Bing Crosby.
Yeah, they've been using that piece for about 3 Christmases in a row now, and fans love it, and the people who put it on T-shirts and everything love it. And so I'm not going to say it's as popular or as big a piece as Ralph McQuarrie's Yoda, but it's an honor, to have my artwork anywhere in that discussion at all.
Oh,
I think it's fair to say that if there were a small group of Star Wars holiday-related artwork, it would definitely be up there with Ralph McQuarrie's pieces.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a great piece. Now, there's a Star Wars 1 day at a time calendar.
Oh yeah.
Is that your artwork in there?
Yeah, I have a lot of artwork in there,
Oh,
as it
cool.
turns out. And as explained to a lot of the fans, I don't know when these things are going to come out or who is printing stuff, and they don't tell me. So it's actually a call out to all the fans that are listening. If you find things that have my art in it, let me know about it. Post it. Let Skywalkers, let Richard and Sarah know about it. And because I'd love to see it. So
Yeah.
A fan of mine actually sent me a message that they said, "Hey, is this your artwork in the day by day?" And she found 3 pieces. I don't know if there's any more in there. I've been looking for the calendar at the stores and I can't find it.
Unfortunately, the artists are not credited with each of these paintings, but if you look at the Tuesday, January 12th, there's a picture of Han Solo firing his blaster at Docking Bay 94. And
That
sure
looks
enough,
like you.
that's
Oh
you.
yeah, that's mine.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of the artwork does kind of look the same, like it's done by the same artist, but 1 or 2 do stick out. And when I see another, without even having to look at your site going, I wonder if this is Randy's, I can always tell your style.
Yeah, I think it's
Aw.
kind of the black lines you use to outline. You have a certain thickness that you use. That's how I can tell.
Well, thank you. I mean, that means a lot to me when you say that, because every artist, I believe, tries to make art in some way look like their own, and so people can pick it out and they put a piece of themselves. So it means a lot to me that you could pick out my art from other art that looks sort of similar,
Yeah.
Yeah, the next time another one of your pieces come up, I'll definitely take a picture of it and post it.
Yay.
That'd be awesome.
And speaking of contacting you, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me all over the place. You can find me, of course, on Facebook, which is, just find Randy Martinez. Twitter is Randy_Martinez.
Okay.
And Instagram, I am Randy Martinez 40. And then, of course, you can find, I have all kinds of artwork for sale in my store, which is randymartinez.storeenvy.com. And it's actually a great place to even just go look at all the artwork that I have, because I put everything up in there. And I have really, really good prices at wholesale and different price points for every budget that's out there. And I'm excited about that, because a lot of people are coming by, and even if they just look, it's fine. But I like it, of course, when they buy stuff too.
Now, something else that you're doing that's brand new is you're periscoping as you paint.
Yeah, I just did that for the first time the other day, and I'm still working out the kinks and trying to figure out how to do this better. But I got to tell you, it was really weird at first.
Isn't it?
Just the whole concept, of live streaming, you're letting somebody into your world,
Yeah.
and it's very different, especially talking, because I set it up so I can see on my iPad, I can see what people are writing, and I try to comment back, but I found myself being very conscious that there's actually nobody talking back like you're used to. Like, we're talking and I hear your voice.
Right.
So it's a natural kind of a flow when we talk. So
Yeah.
it was weird. And I started thinking, like, everybody thinks I'm just talking to myself that's outside, that if they can hear me.
Yeah. I think everyone watching knows that it's a one-way conversation, but they do
Yeah.
respond only in text.
Right.
Yeah. So I plan on getting better at it. I like it a lot more than I thought I would. And the fans seem to really like it. And I think I'm going to try to eventually set something up where I definitely have a scheduled time.
Yeah, the more you do it, the more people will tune in, we've noticed.
Yeah, and definitely if you're interested, at least right now where I'm trying to figure things out, definitely follow me on Facebook and Twitter, because I will post alerts of when I plan on putting the Periscope, until I get to a point where I definitely have a set time where I put it up.
Now, if you have the Periscope app, just search Randy Martinez, and I believe you'll find Randy there.
Well, I think it just uses
Randy_Martinez.
Yeah, it just uses your Twitter handle, right? Yeah. So
right,
Randy
but you can
_Martinez.
actually go to the Periscope app and search Randy_Martinez and follow you on Periscope, so that you get a notification when you are Periscoping.
Well, it's great seeing you paint, because then we can see your process, and I like the fact that you tell people what you're using, either what medium and what kind of paints and what the brand is. So I think that's really good for any kind of aspiring artists.
Well, that's really good feedback to hear, and to the fans as well. Any questions that you have, I'm pretty much an open book about a lot of things, especially when it comes to art. If you want to know brands or techniques or anything, I just it's fun. And the thing I'll finish about this is that being an artist, a lot of people probably don't realize it can get a little lonely because you spend a lot of time alone doing your artwork, and as great as it is on a meditative point of view, sometimes you miss that social interaction with people. And so this is, I really liked that the other day, that I was talking with people while I was working, and that was really great. So please definitely come. Don't feel like you're bothering me. And if I need to be focused and I don't talk back, that's just because I need to be focused. But
all right, so let's wrap that up here. So woohoo, our first spin-off classic Marvel Star Wars comics with Randy Martinez is now wrapped.
Yeah, and if you guys want to contact us, please, on Twitter, go to @SkywalkingPod. On Facebook, we are Skywalking Through Neverland. And on Instagram, we are @SkywalkingPod as well. So, yay.
All right, so until next time, where we continue on with this brand new expanded universe, where the next issue, number 8, is titled Trouble in Paradise.
Ooh.
But as we learn later on, titles change.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
But spoiler alert, not only does it change, it changes twice.
Okay.
Yeah, the title on the front cover is different from the inside.
Okay, well, we'll get into that next time.
Now, before we say goodbye, I want to thank our good friend Rob Dellinger for composing yet another great show jingle. Love the way he refers to the classic characters. So, this is Richard.
This is Sarah.
This is Randy.
And until next time,
FORP!
Wow.
Begone, Defilers of the Sacred Way.
We pulled out a lot of stuff where there wasn't much.
Oh, really?
Yes, you said
Now we're a second off.
You said the big red button.
What?
Do I do when I see or hear about a big red button?
Look at this. We're a second off.
Well, that's going to be your deal to sync that up. You should have thought of this, shouldn't you? Randy, so sorry to see this ugliness.
I don't know about this. At last, beyond the movie. Oh, cute.
Let's make some Marvel magic.
All right.
Oh, lovely.
It only happens when you're going to record. Okay, here we go.
So, now when we last left off, we just finished the movie adaptation of the comics where Rebel Space... Blah. Let me try that again. Now, when we last left off, we had just finished the movie adaptation where Rebel Space Dip... Why can't I say that? All right. Sorry.
Don't believe me. I
Rebel
understand.
spaceships. Where Rebel spaceships.
The pirates take the reward money given to Han and Chewie for